How are you today?
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, good day.
What do
Busy
you
day.
do? Do you have a job?
Yeah, I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher.
Yeah.
Awesome. What a noble profession. What do you teach? Like high school?
Um, uh, Typically high school. The past couple of years, I've been doing middle school and high school.
Oh wow.
Doing all handling all the cyber and remote learning for the district. So,
Oh yeah. Which district? Pittsburgh?
Penn Hills,
What hills?
Penn Hills.
Penn Hills. Oh, okay. You're way out east then.
Well, that's where I work, but yeah, I
Oh, okay.
live in the city.
You have a long commute every day?
It's not too bad. Not too bad.
My wife, else is joining in.
Nice.
Megan. Hello, Megan. Megan.
Looks like it's connecting.
Well, maybe she's just listening in. Um, so if you want to join, Megan, you can unmute your microphone and your video.
Yeah, I'm cleaning the car, so I'm kind of
Oh,
like
okay.
multitasking.
How you doing?
I'm good,
I don't
thanks. But
think
you?
I've met you. Are you a member of the Krishna Kirtan Center, Pittsburgh Kirtan Center?
So I visited a couple of times. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, it's very nice to meet you, and we'll just be launching it. This is the first chapter. We've already done the introduction, so we're starting on the first chapter. So you're getting in on the ground floor, more or less,
Cool.
as they say. So yeah, go ahead and clean your car. I don't mind. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your interest, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I advertise this in the. I've been trying to reach out a little bit more to get people to join. So I'm going to start sharing the screen out here, hopefully. I'm going to close a few windows here because it seems like I'm running too many things. Okay, so here it is. Can see?
Yep. There we go.
I've just been reading, I'm on the 5th chapter now of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's really amazing. The last chapter I read was the confidential reason why Lord Chaitanya appeared on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a lesson in itself, but and that was like 4.5 hours long, the chapter. But this chapter that I'm reading now is even longer. It's probably 5 or 6 hours long. It's the description, Krishnadas Kaviraj's description of Lord Nityananda and what his position is. So, whoops. Okay, so I'm going to try to close a couple extra tabs here because it seems like my computer is slowing down. All right, so let's just go ahead and start out. You want to read text 1?
Sure. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetra Kurukshetra Samaveta Yuyutsatsava Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim Kurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha, King Dhritarashtra said, Dharmakshetra, in the place of pilgrimage, Kurukshetra, in the place named Kurukshetra, Samaveta, assembled, Yuyutsava, desiring to fight, Mamaka, my party, sons. Pandava, the sons of Pandu. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Kim, what? Kurvata, did they do? Sanjaya, O Sanjaya. Translation. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Purport.
I'll read the purport, I guess, or the first paragraph. Bhagavad-gītā is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There, it says that one should read Bhagavad-gītā very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna, and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad-gītā itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad-gītā in that line of disciplic succession, without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all the scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad-gītā all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is a specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Go ahead.
The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on the planet for the guidance of mankind.
The word Dharma Kshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary, Sanjaya, quote, what did they do, end quote. He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in that field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want to compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjaya was a student of Vyasa, and therefore by the mercy of Vyasa, Sanjaya was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Actually, my YouTube channel is named Sanjaya 4K Videography, because, you know, we don't have the opulence of having somebody like Vyasadeva as our guru. So we got to rely on all these material gizmos, you know, like social media and YouTube and things, so we can see what's going on in the world, you know, like Zoom and everything. So it's pretty nice, that facility, but Sanjaya was actually able to envision it through the mercy of Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva was actually an incarnation, a literary incarnation of Krishna himself. So that's pretty good guru. Go ahead and read the last paragraph.
Okay. Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family, but Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out. So it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son Duryodhana and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons, headed by Yudhisthira, would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmakshetra and Kurukshetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance.
Text 2. Sanjaya vacha drishtva tu pandavandikam yudam duridonas tada acharyam upasangamya rajavachanam avarbit. Synonyms. Sanjaya vacha, Sanjaya said, drishtva, after seeing two, but Pandava Antikam, the soldiers of the Pandavas, viewed them arranged in military phalanx. Duryodhan, King Duryodhan, tada at that time, Acharyam, the teacher, Upasangamya, approaching Raja the king, Vachanam, words, Abravit spoke. Translation. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words.
Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjaya wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king, and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjaya therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhan, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhan's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas.
Text 3. Pasyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatam Chamum Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Sisyena Dimata. Synonyms. Pasya, behold, etam, this, Pandu Putranam, of the sons of Pandu, Acharya, old teacher, Mahatim, great, Chamum, military force, Vyudam, arranged, Drupad Putrena, by the son of Drupad, Tava, your, Sisyena, disciple, Dimata, very intelligent. Translation. O teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad.
Duryodhan, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahmin commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupada, the father of Drupadi, who was Arjuna's wife. As a result of this quarrel, Drupada performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet, as a liberal Brahmin, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupada, Drishtadyumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Drishtadyumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for their military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhan pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya's so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjuna especially was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhan also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat.
So Duryodhan kind of like burned Dronacharya a little bit there. Text 4. Atasura Maheshwasa Bhimarjuna Samayudi Yudano Viratas Cha Drupadas Cha Maharata. Synonyms. Atra, here, Suram, heroes, Mahayishu Asa, mighty bowman, Bhima Arjuna, to Bhima and Arjuna, Sama, equal, Yudi, in the fight, Yudhan, Virata, Virat, Cha, also, Dropad, also, Cha, also, Maharata, great fighter. Translation. Here in this army, there are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. Great fighters like Yudhan, Virat, and Drupad.
Even though Drishtadyumna was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, There were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhana as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory, because each and every one of them was as formidable as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them.
Text 5. Drishtaketus Chikitana Kashirajas Chabirivan Purujit Kundibojas Cha Shaibhyas Cha Narapangava. Synonyms. Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj Cha also, Viryavan, very powerful, Purujit, Kuntiboj Cha, and Shaibya Cha, and Narapungava, a hero in human society. Translation, there are also great, heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitan, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kuntiboj, and Shaibya.
Yara Manyus Cha Vikranta Utmanu Jas Cha Viryavan Sobhadro Dropareyas Cha Sarva Eva Maharatha Yudhamanyu Cha and Vikranta mighty Utmaju Cha and Viryavan very powerful Subhadra the son of Subhadra Draupadeya the son of Draupadi Cha and Sarve, all, Eva, certainly, Maharatha, great chariot fighters. Translation. There are the mighty Yadhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters.
Text 7. Ashmakam tu vishishta ye tanniboda dujotama nayaka mama sanyasya Samyartam tan bravimi te. Synonyms. Ashmakam, our, too, but Vishvashishta, very equal, especially powerful, Yehu, tan them, Niboda, just take note of, be informed. Dvija Uttama, O best of the Brahmanas, Nayaka, captains, Mama, my, Sanyasya, of the soldiers, Samyartam, for information, tam them, bravimi, I'm speaking te, to you. Translation. But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force.
Van Bhishmas cha Karanas cha Kripas cha Samitim Jaya Ashvatthama Vikarnas cha Samadatis Tathaiva cha. Bhavan, your good self. Bhishma, grandfather Bhishma, Cha, also, Karna, Cha, and Kripa, Cha, and Samitajaya, always victorious in battle, Ashvatthama, Vikarna, Cha, as well as Salmadati, the son of Somadatta, Tatha, as well as Eva, certainly, Cha, also. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashvatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bodhishvara, who are always victorious in battle.
Purport. Duryodhana mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhana. Ashvatthama is the son of Dronacharya, and Somadati, or Bodhishrava, is the son of the king of the Balikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjuna, as he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya's twin sister married Dronacharya.
Anyecha Bhavasara Mad Artha Chakta Jivata Nana Shastra Praharana Sarve Yuda Visharvara Anye others, Cha also, Bahava in great numbers, Shurya heroes, Mat Arthe for my sake. Jakta Jivata, prepared to risk life, Nana, many, Shastra, weapons. Praharana, equipped with, Sarve, all of them. Yuda Vishrara, experienced in military science. Translation. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science.
Purport. As far as the others are concerned, like Jayadratha, Kritavarma, and Shalya, all are determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, of course, confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends.
Paryaptam tad asmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tivaidam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. Paryaptam, immeasurable, tat, that, asmakam, of ours, balam, strength, bhishma, by grandfather Bhishma, abhirakshitam, perfectly protected, paryaptam, limited, to, but, idam, all this, itesham, of the Pandavas, balam, strength, bhima, by Bhima, abhirakshitam, carefully protected. A translation. Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited.
Purport. Herein is an estimation of the comparative strength made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would be only killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained.
Yaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avastita Bhishmam evam hikaranshatu bhavanta sarva eva hai. Yaneshu, in the strategic points, cha also, sarveshu, everywhere, yatha bhagam, as differently arranged, avastita, situated, Bhishmam, unto grandfather Bhishma, eva, certainly, abhirak Shantu, should give support, Bhavanta, you, Sarve, all respectively, Evahi, certainly. Translation. All of you must now give full support to grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Purport. Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think they had been considered less important. So, in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Dev. He was confident in the full support of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya in the battle because he knew well that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife, Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice as she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up as they had done during the gambling performances.
The two things that are kind of standing out. One was in I think the purport for the very first text. Once again, the emphasis on needing to receive this knowledge, in the line of disciplic succession.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing is that, all of the decisions here that Duryodhana seems to be making, all of his assessments are just based on these material calculations.
Right.
He's looking at things through a certain and very limited vision, which, from his perspective, he has the advantage, that there's no flaw in the plan, except for the fact that he's only looking at it from the material perspective.
Do you know how that they came to that arrangement where Arjuna
Yeah, Krishna offered himself, all of his armies
Yeah.
to one side, and then himself just as an advisor to the other. And Arjuna was thrilled to just have him as an advisor, and Duryodhana was thrilled to have the vast military might.
It was a win-win situation according to from external appearance, but actually, in actuality, it was a win-lose situation. Yeah. Duryodhana was destined to be killed, and and all the millions of soldiers as well. But it kind of reminds me of that kind of sarcastic song by Bob Dylan, with God on our side. You ever heard that song? You're too young to know that song. But it talks about, with God on our side, we'll have victory. But it is true in the case of, that's one of the concluding chapters of the Bhagavad-gītā, in chapter 18, wherever there's Arjuna, wherever there's Krishna, there's sure to be victory, opulence, and power, or something like that, at the end of the Gita. So, who you pick? Who's your God? Are you going to choose your military strength? Or are you going to choose the Supreme Personality of God? Even though he's not fighting. And Arjuna, he made the right decision. And even though he was unwilling to fight at first, Krishna convinced him on the strength of his, argument and presentation of Bhakti Yoga to, get rid of all his false, his illusory affection for his so-called relatives, and just execute his duty according to Krishna's desire. Krishna's desire is above and beyond any kind of moral thing. Like I've heard that, like sometimes other religious traditions criticize us, like the Jehovah's Witness. They have a pamphlet about the Hare Krishnas or the Hindus. And they say, well, we're going to have our kingdom of God on earth. And they always have these pamphlets where they show everybody getting along, and all their butterflies and birds and all the black people and the white people, and everybody's getting along. It'll just be like heaven on earth. They think that that's actually going to happen. But, they don't know that this material world is there's always going to be conflict. Doesn't matter, because this is the material world. And so there'll always be conflicts of interest. And they criticize the Bhagavad-gītā and they said, well, after your savior came, there was still, after the so-called battle of Kurukshetra, there's still wars after that. We've had like one war after another. So they just discounted the whole meaning or the import of the Bhagavad-gītā based on that so-called assessment of their own, scriptural standards. But, that, of course, is a very shallow assessment, because actually it's Kali Yuga and it's just going to get worse and worse. But for the next 10,000 years, due to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, there is going to be a mini golden age within this iron age of quarrel and hypocrisy that will last 10,000 years. And so, it'll be kind of like, I guess, what the Jehovah's Witnesses are hoping for, but that's only a temporary situation. The next 427,000 years after that are just going to be downhill. So it's just best to get the heck out of this place, because it's just from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. So are we on, where are we here?
Text 12.
Am I on the purport?
No, I don't think we didn't do anything on text 12 yet.
Oh, text 12. Tasya Shanjaniyam Harsham Kuru Vrida Pitamaha Singanandam Vinachyo Jai Shankam Dadmo Pratapavan. Synonyms. Tasya, his Sanjayanam, increasing Harsham's cheerfulness. Kuru Vrida, the grandsire of the Kuru dynasty. Bhishma. Pitamaha, the grandfather. Sinhanandam, roaring sound like that of a lion. Vinadya, vibrating Uchai very loudly. Shankam, conch shell. Dadmo, blue. Pratapavan, the valiant. Translation. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy.
Purport. The grandsire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana, and out of his natural compassion for him, tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection.
Yeah, I don't understand why he was informing Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory just by blowing his conch shell. Do you get that? Do you understand how by blowing his conch shell?
Perhaps, wasn't the standard flown with on the chariot with Arjuna and Krishna with a lion on it?
No, it was actually Hanuman, I believe.
Okay, then no, I'm not sure because I'm just thinking with the roar of a lion that tied into that. Yeah. No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know why Prabhupada is. Maybe that was just his attitude. That's what Prabhupada is saying. So maybe his attitude by blowing that conch shell was kind of like, "Hey, you're going to lose, but I'm still going to fight." And
maybe the recognition that there's no hope, but I'm going to go through the motions anyway.
Yeah. He was just happy to be in the battle because that's what Kshatriyas back then, they were ecstatic when they had to fight, and if they were challenged like that, even though he picked the wrong side, that was all Krishna's arrangement. Everything is Krishna's arrangement, especially that battle. Krishna gathers all the demons up, because the world was overburdened by an excess of military force. He gathered all these soldiers up and then killed them all, except the only 5 people remained, and I think Ashwatthama was the one on the other side that remained. But all of the other soldiers died. Millions and millions of people died in that battle. It's pretty amazing. It'd make other battles like Star Wars or something look like romper room in comparison. Text 13. Tata sankas chaberias cha pavanaka gumuka sahashaiva bayan yanta sasabdas tumulo bavat. Synonyms: tata, thereafter, shanka, conch shells, cha, and also Birya, large drums, cha, and Panavanaka, small drums and kettle drums, Gomuka, horns, Sahasa, all of a sudden, Eva, certainly, Abhyahanyanta, were simultaneously sounded, saw that Shabda, combined sound, Tumula, tumultuous, Abhavat, became.
Translation: after that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous.
Yeah, like I was thinking, if somebody was a devotee would ever make a screenplay out of this, and somebody actually tried to, all of these things are very, this is actually an exact description of what was going on in the battlefield, because we're hearing this from the disciplic succession. And Duryodhana, Sanjaya is narrating this, and all of this is being exactly presented as it happened. So it's like the whole scene, even the choreography, could be created around this particular, description of the Bhagavad-gītā, because it's coming from the spiritual world. It's totally accurate. And so the thing is that it's, Prabhupada always said, though, it has to be acted, it has to be directed, and it has to be everything that has to be done by devotees. Otherwise, there's no connection. If it's done by a materialist, or if it's done by somebody that doesn't have that connection with Krishna, it might be nice because they're actually chanting the names and they're reciting the words, and they're kind of like externally going through the motions, but it doesn't have the same thing. That's why Prabhupada emphasized. I told a devotee in New Vrindavan, he actually went to a university, West Liberty University in West Virginia, and he created the Ramayana, a play, the Ramayana, in that university with the college students there, because his wife and him were actually talking about it, and they were thinking about maybe doing it with devotees, but then they said, well, devotees are so undependable. And so they did it with the students, and it was good for the students and everything. But the thing is, if you're going to do like a really good presentation, you have to have devotees, that are involved. Otherwise, there's no real connection with the spiritual reality. The devotees are the ones that actually connect us with the story, and they can actually act it out too. Prabhupada actually was involved in a play once. He played Advaitacharya, and he said the whole audience, was due to his performance, was crying when he performed that as a college student. But I think, let's see here, we'll just do one more, because it's actually 6:39. We're going to be cut off here, so let's do one more. It's your turn, right?
Sure. Tata Svetayar Hayar Yukte Mahati Shandane Stitita Madhava Pandavash Jaiva Divyo Shankho Pradad Muta Mata Tata thereafter Svetya with white, Haya horses, Yukte being yoked, Mahati in a great, Shandane chariot, Stitau situated, Madhava Krishna the husband of the goddess of fortune, Pandava Arjuna the son of Pandu, Cha also, Eva certainly, Divyo transcendental, Sankhya conch-shells, Pradad Matu sounded. Translation: on the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Purport: in contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Dev, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicated that there was no hope for victory on the other side, because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Jayastu Pandu Puttanam Yesha Pakshe Janardana. Victory is always with persons like the sons of Pandu, because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there, because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. Therefore, victory and fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. Besides that, the chariot on which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna, and this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides, wherever it was drawn, over the three worlds. That just reminds me of another incarnation. It's such a heroic thing, these conch shells are being blown by Krishna and Arjuna, and they're just like the great heroes in the whole story. And the same thing is going to happen 427,000 years from now, when Kalki comes. All the demons all these kings will be overrunning the place, and it'll be so degraded, and Lord Kalki will come riding on his horse, slaughter all of them. I think Hridayananda Maharaj said, he will pound the pollution out of them or something like that. He puts it really well in the purport. But anyway, thank you very much for participating. I guess we only have 2 participants now, but thank you, Megan,